Mayo K, it's Mayo Say, back at it again with the Mayo Say! Disclaimer! I checked with my mom, and I did the Japanese wrong, but I'm going to keep it anyway because it's an honest mistake. So, yeah. Intro was kind of inaccurate. Sorry for the fake news. But, to the topic at hand, it has been a while since I've made a video, and as I sat awake at 3 AM at my desk, an idea sprung! I could A. Finish my script to my stupid video essay on comparing Sims 3 to Sims 4. Yes, that is real. It exists. It's a work in progress that I haven't touched for a couple of months. Or work on something that's a bit more relevant. As you can see, I chose B. Now, for some background to the newbies that wandered onto my channel. I made On the Spectrum to briefly reflect upon my experiences as an autistic person and shed light on some of the things that I unfortunately glossed over. So this is basically a behind the scenes. I hadn't told my parents about it because I wanted it to be a surprise and thank them for believing in me. But the next day, my mother gave me a big envelope full of documents. Documents full of information on how I was diagnosed, which surprised me. That was over a year ago, but I remember it rather vividly. I sat down while talking with my friends and sifted through these documents. It's kind of confidential, but I can at least give you a vague description on how the process seemed to have gone. Now, this also means you get to learn a little bit about myself, since this is my experience. It isn't going to define the experiences of every autistic person you may come across, but it might give a couple of hints to some aspects about them, to varying degrees, so kind of like certain common denominators. With that being said, I need to be a bit more accurate and start with the beginning of my life. Now, for the first little segment of the animation, I did cry a lot, that's true. I don't think that's just an autistic person experience, but I feel like it amplified that part of myself. The rest of the animation goes to say that I acted a little off socially, maybe not as dramatically as my animation made it out to be, and then around the age of 3 to 4, around that range, I got diagnosed! But that isn't true either! In truth, my parents claimed that it was simply because I'd missed certain milestones. I didn't quite know how to speak, and it wasn't because I was processing 2 languages at once either. Over the course of my life, from preschool age to maybe the end of 5th grade, my social skills were monitored and assessed by doctors who specialized in studying the behavior of children. I don't know, child psychologists, maybe? Should have said that in the script. Whoops. In fact, finding the right doctor that would better help identify why I had missed these milestones cost a lot of money. I cannot say exactly, but it is over 700 and under 15,000 American dollars. That is the range. What I had tried to capture at least was like a vacant stare that is displayed often, even during my interviews with the doctors. I didn't really make a whole lot of eye contact or respond, despite paying attention. And I also just didn't pay attention other times. Now this would have been fine in certain settings because children are volatile and get bored easily, but it would happen even when someone was directly speaking to me. The doctors even went as far as to examine me in classes over the course of my life and seeing how I responded to the kids and the teachers. One document also has a transcript of me trying to read a picture book and telling the interviewer how I felt about it. Kinda reminded me of my good old favorite, well actually everyone's favorite, elementary school janitor, Steve. I hope he's doing alright. Personally, it was weird, but strangely flattering that people were that curious about me doing mundane things. But back on track. All this research did not fully accumulate to a final diagnosis. No, in fact, there were several, actually. Being on the autism spectrum is very much a gray area. There is no clear-cut way to say which tier or type of the spectrum you fall under. At first, some documents said that I was fine, a neurotypical person, and others claimed that my development was so concerning that they thought about putting me into a special ed class. In fact, some of those interviews were to determine if I was fit to remain in a neurotypical kid class. Most of the documents would start off with basic info, like stuff about my parents, stuff about me, and then they took into account my dual-wielding bilingualism as a child, which might have also served as a bit of a challenge. If you're curious as to how the finality of the diagnoses affected me, the doctors eventually settled on allowing me to attend neurotypical classes with neurotypical kids. However, to monitor my progress socially, I'd be taken out of class and into a small room to play games with a nice lady and another kid and just talk. It was called speech. I didn't know what it was about and why I was the only one allowed to leave until very recently. FYI, my diagnosis was mentioned to me when I was 12, and I was much younger than 12 when I had attended those little classes. My parents' persistence for me to be able to make it past the neurotypical standard of a normal person is meaningful and encouraging. It means that I can go out into the world alongside other neurodivergent folks and make everyone else aware of what we may experience because of our conditions. It's unique to the individual, but there's some common layer in which a good chunk of us stand on, that's for sure. Even now, I still kind of struggle to pick up certain hints or overthink certain situations. And maybe I have the wrong ideas on how to socialize still in my head, but I feel very lucky to have friends who understand who I am and are with me all the way through. So this is just a second thank you for having faith in me. Y'all are poggers.